of the problems that I see figures like Jonathan Pageau and Jordan Hall and John Vervaeke attempting to approach using these concepts is what makes a collective entity cohere as a unit, right? So that's one issue. The second issue is, what's the relationship between that phenomenon and consciousness? I think the consciousness part is really where there seems to be a gray area, and where I see people falling into certain traps. There's one of the things that we explore in the article that my friend Daniel and I perceive to be somewhat of a misstep is this willingness to attribute consciousness to a collective entity simply by virtue of the fact that it has a common identity, right? Those two things, to my mind, aren't synonymous, and so that's one of the issues that we explored in the article. To give a concrete example, it's like, there's I don't want to poke fun at anything that's been said in this space, but like I kind of made a joking reference in another conversation that I had on another podcast about the conversation Jonathan had. I believe it was with Jordan Hall about like the potential consciousness of a basketball team, right? I think that's, to be completely frank, I think that's a kind of a preposterous notion to even consider that something like a basketball team would be conscious. I appreciate the fact that I appreciate the willingness to explore any possibility, but to my mind there's a conflation of two separate concepts going on in such an assessment. It's, just because there is a unified identity within a group of human beings cooperating doesn't mean that there's some sort of higher consciousness involved necessarily. If there is, there's a fundamental difference between where that higher consciousness is located, so to speak, in something like a human being or an ensouled organism, and something like a team, right? Even if we were to attribute a consciousness, an awareness, an agency to the basketball team, is the agency here on Earth in the basketball team? Like, does the basketball team embody a unified locus of experience in the same way that, say, a human being or even a dog or a cat does, right?
Right.
There's when the cells of the human body or of an animal organism come together to participate in the unified entity that is the creature, the ensouled creature, well, those parts are in service of an organism that's incarnated here on Earth, whose consciousness is here on Earth, and is directing the movements of that unified entity, right? It's like I would hesitate to say that something similar is happening with a basketball team. So the question becomes, okay, if there is a higher being involved, like, where is it, so to speak? I know that's probably like a somewhat of a fraught way to put the question, but I think it makes sense. Does every collective entity, social or otherwise, have some kind of a unified locus of experience residing within it, in the same way that we see in an ensouled creature, right? That was really the main thrust of the two articles that we wrote, were like exploring all the different ramifications of that particular issue.